I see a lot of people around the tabletop role playing game community, the old school, and I see them as YouTubers making what I call short term decisions. Decisions that they're not sure of. They might make in a whim, go on a feeling. Sometimes their content can be like last minute. Like they don't even know what they're going to stream about, or they want to do a video, but they don't even know what they want to say in the video. And then some out there will just get on and say, I'm never doing this again, only to want to do that thing a day or so later. I've learned this, that even if you try to think in the long term, some things that you can take your time and try to plan out when you're going to try them, they might not work out the way you want. You might make a quick change. There's a lot of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. But I still think thinking in the long term is the most effective way to do YouTube, especially in a niche part of YouTube, like doing old school tabletop role playing games. My changes recently, making all my old school, or not just old school, but just Dungeons and Dragons content, the majority of it members only. I took 3 weeks, 3 very long weeks, to think about those changes, what they meant, and would I want to stick to them, for any period of time, right? So I had to do that. But I'll see guys out there that will get emotional, get on and go, I'm never doing this again. Again, only like 2 or 3 days later, they're doing it again, even if they come up with a different reason why they're doing it. It could be a different title to the thing, but they're doing that stream they said they wouldn't do, or that type of stream. Then there are people that don't think about their content long term. I find that could be bad sometimes when you're waiting until the day before to decide what it is you're doing for content. You should, I say you should think long term all the time on YouTube. Be way ahead of the game, because there's so many other aspects I want to focus on. It's like tabletop role playing games. There's a lot of aspects I don't want to have to focus on when I'm trying to run a game or something. I want the performance and the activity to be something I can focus on outside of a number of things. So that's why I find myself leaning towards games where it's a lot easier to take certain things away. Like that's dealt with. I don't have to think about that. That is just going to function during the game. So I can think about performance and other things during the game. As a YouTuber, I like sort of the same approach, where it's not that I lock myself into content. It's to say I can adjust, I can talk about current news, I can talk about all that, but at the same time, I want to know what content I'm going to do in some way from week to week going forward, right? So I think long-term thinking is good for that. Like my content, with what I know and what I planned out last year, the way I'm doing content now could go on for 3 or 4, 5 years steady before I'd ever have to get to the point of, okay, I need to come up with some new things or see how I can extend this thing out. But for the next 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 years, my content, I feel like it's locked in on YouTube. Like I know what I want to do. I know how much effort I'll put forth depending on what I'm getting back and how that can change over time. So I made a lot of plans for success, not success, what that would mean, how I would approach it, if next year things are different than this year and what that means. I did a lot of thinking last year. I took several months privately without telling people that support me or anybody, just a real private time, really taking some hard thinking on YouTube and what I want from YouTube and what I want to do with YouTube. And that has benefited me because it got my channel up to the point of hitting 1K, right? Becoming partners with YouTube from all that thinking and all the effort I made around that thinking, prepping myself for this year for streams and everything. That was important. Now, 3 weeks ago, I considered making changes because you have to adapt and change given the evidence and what you see happening. So you got to look at where you're getting support, where you're not getting support, how much effort you put into something, depending on where you're getting something where things are coming from. And that's why over 3 weeks, I took my time and really thought about, do I want to put any, the Dungeons and Dragons content into members only? And I decided after some really hard thinking, given what I know I'm getting back for the effort, yeah. Because it's a lot more give. It's a lot more me giving and others taking. And I appreciate the bit of support I get back for it, but I get barely any support for that content. And actually I end up giving out a lot of ideas that seem to get copied by other people. So I'm helping them grow their channels. I'm helping them come up with things to say, but I'm finding myself not rewarded for what I think is really good content, especially on old school Dungeons and Dragons and new school. That I'll start doing soon, 3rd edition, 4th edition coverage. So I looked at all that and just said, I'm not getting enough back for that content. So I like doing the content though, but I got to measure it out. You got to look at YouTube like you're working here. I don't just do it just for fun. I do it to make an effort to earn something back. I'm not delusional. I have no expectations of getting something major back, but also know in life, if you don't try something, you don't know. Other guys I find they'll fib to you. They'll tell you they're here for fun, only then to look at the way they're doing content on YouTube, and they're just not confessing to you that no, they're not just doing it for fun. They're trying to get somewhere. They're just not saying that honestly out loud. You're getting a story spun to you based on not something that's not true. The difference between me and them is at least I come out and just tell people honestly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Right? So to me, you never know if you're going to get anywhere on YouTube if you don't try. So it's one of those things where I don't mind giving a bit of an effort to see if anything comes of that. And I'm okay with not getting instant, payback for the effort. I know things can be grindy, things can be slow. The opportunities could be just need to be there and you need to be ready for them. So I've understood that. I understood how much time I would commit to some real hard work on YouTube and decided, okay, I'll just commit myself to that much time. Right? Play the game for a bit and know when the end point is if something doesn't come my way, and adjust to how I do YouTube if I hit an end point, depending on whatever path I'm on at the time. So I've done a lot of long-term thinking. The D&D content, honestly, I get almost nothing back for it. The audience for old school, especially Dungeons and Dragons, 99.9.9.9% of them, even if they like the content, even if they come watch it here, they will not reward me at all. So I'm like, okay. And then I have old school Dungeons and Dragons YouTubers and other video content creators that watch my content and then repeat some of what I'm saying in their content. So it's all, I'm getting used for a lot of it and a bit of payback. So I said to myself, well, I got some very loyal supporters that like D&D. I'll definitely do my fair share of work for them, and I'll put things, into the members only area, and just go. You want to know what? That will take care of the way I feel about this. And honestly, I get more public support for the variety of tabletop role-playing games that I cover, the variety outside of D&D especially. So I said to myself, well, that's a different crowd of people. There's a lot of people out there that if they don't like D&D, you'll get some cult followings, but you get people out there that just like the hobby itself and the variety of games out there. And that crowd is actually quite sizable as well. And I've gotten a lot of support from them, right, over the time I've been covering all these different games. So I get more support, more solid support from that crowd. Even the D&D people that follow me like the variety of different games that are out there, like Bushido, stuff like this. So I said, okay, well, that's mainly my major amount of support when it comes to tabletop role-playing games. There are people that are a lot more open-minded. And I figured, okay, that's going to be where I open a lot more, public content to them, especially through streaming, right? So I try to attract those people through that. But my decisions as of late are not like, on the whim. They weren't made based on the feeling. Uh, though some things triggered it, and I said to myself, I'm going to attempt to make some moves. I said this like 3 weeks ago to myself. In the coming weeks, at one point, I'm going to attempt a few things, and depending on the reaction I get for those attempts, that will be, in my case, the final nail in the coffin for some of these issues. And so it wasn't just on a whim, but the triggers in the last, like, say, week that really got me to the point of saying, okay, this is where we're going with YouTube. It happened. But I don't do things, ironically, like at the last second, because I know it could be like in a week, I change my mind, then what? You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that to yourself ever. And even if you lock yourself into content for the next so many years, I had to think last year, I can't lock myself into content and be so locked in that I can't open up or adjust to interviews or news or updated things. So I made sure that whatever I do is not going to get in the way of keeping up with the things that are happening right in the moment. And that I even said to myself, not everything in the moment is going to be something I care about or that I even think I should respond to, because I think some things that happen, no matter how much you want to get on the bandwagon and discuss it because it's hot news that week, you also want credibility. And credibility means if you rush out comments about things, things can change so drastically for some issues over time that sometimes now I just look at an issue and go, I'm not going to cover that because there's just not enough said about that thing. Like Dark Sun, the recent news on Dark Sun, I'm not going to say anything. I love old school Dark Sun. I could comment about the potentials of the new Wizards of the Coast take on Dark Sun, but I don't know anything. I honestly just don't know, and it's unfair to say anything. And regardless to my feelings about what WotC has done beforehand, they're clearly taking a different path. And I want to be accurate when I talk about things, so I want to make sure I see what comes out, see where they're going with it, and then maybe make my comments then, right? But I don't see comments being of value to the community right now. They might, I guess, be entertaining for people that want to ignorantly shoot their mouth off for a night and clap like seals at people that are doing it for them. I just don't need clapping seals, and I don't need to do cheap content like that. We have plenty around the old school tabletop role-playing game community that do cheap, pathetic content. I don't need to be one of them. Baby, I don't need to be one of them.